Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
You think about this, everywhere you look, online, TV, anywhere, social media, it's all driven by video content. Video consumption is up like 80%. I think it's 83% since COVID. So if you own a business or you want to brand yourself, that means you really need to up your video game. One way to do that is through drone photography. And we're going to talk with somebody who does just a phenomenal job. His company is Blue Lion Drone Services, and Cody Hanthorn joins us today. Welcome. How you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me, Steve.
I'm going to be out of the gate, honest in saying right now, I looked at the videos on your website. Stunning, stunning, just amazing. And I truly mean that. Great work.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it that this is a passion of yours, and anything can translate to a drone shot. Really, when I think about it, you own a store, you get a fly in from, the top of the store. Real estate. What better way to sell real estate? And by the way, I'm in between houses, and I saw a drone video of a house that I thought might be kind of okay. And it's very tight in inventory where I am. I saw a drone video, and then I realized that, oh, that one's worth looking at, because I never realized that there was a lot of land around the house. It didn't translate in the listing. What are some of the other things that you've done drone services for?
Like you said, if you can show the outside of the outskirts of the neighborhood, it does a really good job of kind of showing what's going on with the houses nearby. Some of the nicer pieces people have asked me to do is the cinema side for like a 30, 40-second piece of the house. The twilight shots are kind of popular. Some of the nicer houses have really great lighting. And right at dusk, where you have the soft box of the clouds, and sometimes you have a really colorful palette or sky that you can work with, and you get amazing photography and video off that.
Isn't it also amazing that when it's cloudy out, kind of a dreary kind of looking day, some people may say, well, no, we can't shoot. It's not going to be, that's some of the best footage you'll ever get, right?
Absolutely. The colors can be very good still. It doesn't have to be a pointed, bright sun set.
Looking at your clip reel, demo reel, there are shots of, I don't even know, desert. Tell me some of the shots there. Where were they done?
So the one shot in there is really useful, and it's fun to be out there. That was a trip down in Utah by a guy called Chris Newman, and he's done the Lord of the Rings series, kind of helped as the pilot out there. So while we were out there, we did kind of a 4 or 5 day shoot out in Utah. In some areas, you can shoot in the drone series. And I think that one's called Goblin Valley. It's kind of a red, puffy, marshmallowy stone look. And there's several shots in there that are from that. So it was an amazing area, especially at sunset, to shoot a drone.
What's the most unusual drone shot you've done or you've been asked to do?
I've done a couple music videos with a friend and another client, and one of them was a very old 68 or 67 Corvette, and it was kind of a fun shoot to shoot along a highway that was kind of at the edge of town. So that was really fun and memorable.
Any mishaps? Let's be honest.
And truthfully, a lot of drone pilots in their starting days will have mishaps. And in the early, let's say 2000, 2005, the technology wasn't quite there. You had a lot of photography that didn't jive, and you weren't able to change apertures and shutter speeds as nice. But one of my old setups was an octo, and it used a very old technology, and it did what was called a flip of death. So you had it landed on its head, and I ended up gutting the whole control system, put a new one in, and from then it worked much better. But DJI and Autel and other drone companies have kind of got it down by now, where you don't have to tune the gimbal, you don't see out of level shots, you don't see a bobble in the gimbal. And it just does so much better than it did, 10 years ago.
Do you have I believe it's a 107 certification?
I do, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Which, by the way, is required legally. If you want to operate a drone, you should have one. So that's great to hear. You can't do drone footage everywhere if it's restricted, right?
That's right. In Class E, out in the middle of farmland, you don't seem to have much issue. But once you get closer to bigger cities, I don't know how big your city is, but Class D, C, B, A, and you get, much larger cities, you have not just the drone side, like DJI has an unlock sequence, but you also have an authorization, a Lance authorization. Well, you'll have to file through the FAA, and for fairly often it's very quick, and then you get more complicated. But yeah.
Even simple. I do marketing. There was a bank that wanted a shot. We figured change something up in their annual report and do a shot of the building. Really kind of a striking building. So my friend had a drone, does photography. I brought him in. I was like, yeah, let's do this. And then we realized that we can't because we couldn't go up, any higher than a certain point, because there's a local airport not far away. And that was
Yeah.
the end of that. And so you said that can you defeat that? A lot of them have it built in where it says, nope, you're not going past, 40 feet or whatever it is.
You cannot, unless you have, you run the authorization through the FAA, and the FAA says, well, what are you doing? Where are you doing? How high? And you will apply that to DJI once you get the authorization, and DJI will unlock your machine for that particular. So I had a golf course I shot, and I had to unlock it, and it allowed up to a point to the airport, because the airport is next to the golf course, and it hard walls you. It does not allow you to go any further, any higher. You are right there.
Wow. Yeah, I know we're getting a little technical here, but I think it's cool.
Sorry.
It just goes to show you, the technology and the safety that's involved in all of this. Cody, how did this begin for you? Did you have a love of photography from back in the day?
No, and I
Wow.
don't know if you grew up on your side in photography, but I was more on the technical side. I had a lot of love in an old RC helicopter, and back in the
Ah,
day, that was kind of an alternative to airplanes. And as technology got better, RC helicopters got better, and I did that for a number of years in
wow.
Muncie, Indiana. They have a big, huge outing out there, so as you're young and you do things, it was a good alternative and kind of built into the drone side.
Hmm. Interesting. So I'm the reverse. Yeah, I'm geeky, but not. I don't play video games. So even navigating a drone, I think it would be a challenge for me until I get acclimated, but always love photography, always love video. When I see things like yours, it's like, wow, that's good. Look at the lighting on that. Look at the way that's edited. Look at the sound, how it all went together. Share with us some projects that you've done.
I had a project for a lady that was moving with her husband, and they were moving to another state, and they wanted a memories kind of video. And so they wanted me to do a 2 minute, like a minute and a half, 2 minutes of all the area of and they had a pretty nice estate with the husband did work with the vehicles and redid old classic cars. So it was a larger estate. It had a pond and whatnot. And I found a piano piece, a foreign guy, and I couldn't use it because of copyright. So I couldn't broadcast it, but for them alone, I inserted that piece in and then went through the clips and, with a fountain at sunset and whatnot, and put a little emotion into it. And I think, like you see the photography side and the video, and you put together pretty impressive, emotional pieces. And I think that is really enjoyable.
Sure. Yeah, when you invoke emotion, you've nailed it. When you can feel it. And I'll bet you could have looked a little deeper and found other piano pieces that might have been kind of close, but that one just fit. And again, as you said, if it's not broadcast, you could use it, personal use, if you will. Let's look at what's involved. weather conditions. Let's say somebody's thinking about doing a drone video. They take a look at your stuff. Um, what can you do and what can't you do in terms of the weather? Wind, rain, all of that.
Normally the wind is the biggest thing. Photography, you can get away with a lot because you can play with the shutter speeds and you can shoot, in pretty good windy weather. Um, Obviously, rain is a big problem with drones. They don't do well with that. The video side, you kind of have to have a pretty small amount of wind, almost no wind at all, because you don't want that machine wavering in the air and making weird movements up and down.
Hmm.
So you want it really smooth. And that's kind of where I like to be is the video has got to be super smooth. And on the ground, you can do, gimbals, you can do different things, but in the air, the machine will only do what it can do.
Does it make up for those issues, video stabilization and all of that? Because a lot of the shots I see that you've done are very fluid. I've seen other drone shots, and I know you've seen them too, where it's up in the air and it's kind of moving like that. Uh, Yours are very fluid. What's getting that done?
So like I brought up, there's a class Chris Newman puts on. It's really good. He goes over some of the settings, and that Inspire 2 is set up kind of to be a video machine, and it does a really good job in most regards. It's a little bit bigger. The settings are smoother. The gimbal movements are set to just be fluid, and that really helps the pilots achieve that.
I would imagine too that you can shoot and speed it up so it's even more fluid, right?
Yeah, and like you can time mess with the timepiece in the video editing to speed up or slow down pieces, and you kind of get into that frames per second math a little bit, but there's some good stuff into that. Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely.
Hyperlapse. I've heard that term before. What is that?
So I know you know what time lapse is for photography.
Sure.
Now think of moving a drone in a straight line or even a slightly curved line while you're in the air, and then you're running a time lapse while you're doing that. So we have movements as well as the time lapse. But and then add a little bit more to that, and like my one drone will lock on a point of interest. So if you have a tower or a water tower or something of value that you're looking at, and you say, I want the drone to follow this line, but I want it to look at a bridge at sunset, then you can do that. And that's all run autonomously, and then you set up your settings, your shutter, and everything else. And then you put it together in whatever software suite you like, and you come out with some really good stuff.
So two questions. What software suite do you use?
I like DaVinci Resolve. I know other people use, Adobe side, but it's a really good software overall.
Hmm. When you said that the drone locks on a subject, does it literally, can you say, I want that bridge, lock onto that bridge? Or are you saying that just figuratively, you're controlling it so it goes toward the bridge?
Kind of. So in the map in the software, you circle exactly what you want to look at, and then you
Wow.
say how high you want to look at that. So if it's 25 feet high in a bridge or 50-foot high, you
Wow.
lock on that in 3D space.
How are you doing that? Is it literally on the screen that you're using? A lot of drones use phones, right, to connect. I don't know. Is that what you're using?
The one software is in Altel. It uses kind of a mission planner. So you say, I want to put 10, 20 waypoints, and you want it to curve around a baseball diamond, and you want to capture the innings or whatever it is. So it will follow that path, whether it's one, two, or 30 points into that.
Wow. I mean, drones are pricey. Yeah, let's that I wanted one just for fun. You're looking at minimum for something, DJI, $800 at least. But
Yeah.
yours go way higher than that. We're not talking 4K, we're talking 6K here, right?
The Inspire 2 when it came out, was about 6,500 ish with stuff. And the Inspire 3, I think if you get a nice built up package with a couple lenses, you're about 20 right now. So it does
Wow.
add up. And the Altas, the Movi stuff, that's a little bit higher yet. You start doing reds and whatnot.
Oh, the red camera. No, know it well. Haven't used it in not me personally, but in my work. I know we're geeking out here, but this is what it's all about.
Yeah.
It's like super cool. Now talking those numbers, do you ever worry when your drone is up in the air and anything could happen? You know, it's a bird, whatever, and now you've got $6,000 flying around up there. Does that cross your mind?
Yes, I did one job over water, and I know drones in water don't do well, but um, I had a battery go out in flight, and the system said, I'm going to land now, and I'm over water. And I had to hustle to get back to land because once it initiates that landing sequence, it doesn't really go away. You can't kind of just push it aside. If your battery, one cell drops out, you kind of have to take care of business. And even though that system has two batteries, and for whatever reason, I had a battery go out, and yeah.
Wow. All right. What we're talking about here is it's programmed to come home back to you
Yes.
if there's an issue, let's say, a battery issue or the battery's, getting low, but when you're flying over water, it's you don't have enough battery power. You've had to get back.
Right.
Wow. Wow. Everything work out well?
Yeah, I was able to bring it back and land. And, you can't plan for every single thing, but you do try to plan, multiple batteries and go over your history of your batteries and see where they're at. And if they're old,
Sure.
you're going to have to do some
Yes.
maintenance.
Uh, yes. So that brings me to somebody that I know was shooting with a drone last year, and the battery was older and started buckling a little bit, maybe because of heat, wasn't sitting in there just right. And he would pray every time he sent it up in the air. I'm like, dude, just get a new battery. Look at how do you live like that? He goes, I know. Because if it's not sitting under the drone properly, it could just fall out. Wow. Yeah, lots of considerations. Insurance. Do you have insurance?
I do, yes. You can get insurance for a lot of pieces. You can do different drone pilots can do a yearly piece, or they can buy daily. You can do 1 million, 2.5 mil, I think is the upper end limit. So if you're doing a higher end cinema piece, let's say a director is calling you, and you have to have insurance. So that's
Hmm,
part of it.
gotcha. And what about insurance for the drone itself?
You can buy whole insurance. A lot of companies will offer it, and it depends on how much you're asking for. And it's usually a percentage of the aircraft, just like insurance is for other pieces.
Like a car.
Yeah.
That it's based on, but how do they prove that? Let's just say, whatever happened. How do you prove that, if you bang up your car, you bring it in for an inspection from the insurance company. What do you do? Again, we're getting technical here, but I've always wanted to ask this question.
Sure. So the DGI, I suppose we'll go down the path of that and say, hey, well, the insurance company is going to ask what happened. And if you had to prove it, you could say, well, the DGI does record everything in the air. And that's
Ah,
good and bad for the pilot, because if something happened, you could say, well, I had authorization and here I was, and this such and such happened. So that's one piece of it. There's also the remote ID piece that kind of doubles down and also records what you're doing in the air. And that's kind of new. And it's kind of a second piece for the FAA as well. Um, it does protect you. It could protect you in some regards, but it also is to let other people know that whose aircraft is that in the air. If you're near a sporting event or something, and you're absolutely should not be there. So there's that.
wow. So essentially, what I'm hearing from you, which I was not aware of, is that drones have a unique ID, like a license plate number, and it's retained or sent back to the manufacturer because you're using an app and all. So they know what's going on. It,
It was implemented recently.
okay.
This isn't totally, brand new, but it's been out a little bit, where some of the software has been implemented, and then other pieces you have to put like a third party hardware piece that sticks on the drone, and you turn that on. So like Alltel's older versions doesn't have it, but maybe the new version 3 Evo 2 does. It's integrated into the software pack.
Sure. Would the lower end drones also have that?
Maybe, but
Maybe.
I'm not saying yes or no. I'm saying it could.
Right.
I know for 107, you definitely have to have that. And I'm not sure about the recreational side, what that entails.
Legally, does everybody need to have the 107 certification to fly a drone?
No.
Okay. You said one key word before, and I want to bring this word up because it says everything. You're a pilot. You're piloting an aircraft, be it a small one. I think that needs to be considered. A lot of people think, well, yeah, it's just a toy kind of thing that goes up in the air and we shoot video from it. But no, you're piloting a craft and there's responsibility that comes along with that. So if anybody's looking to hire somebody for drone work, certainly looking for somebody that's got the 107 certification is key. Where would you work? South Dakota is where you're located, right?
Right. That's right.
Okay. Where will you shoot?
The surrounding area, maybe an hour or two, either in any direction. I have been called to go a little bit further, but most of it is in the surrounding area, maybe down to Omaha and maybe up to the cities type of thing.
Got it. What about if this podcast can be heard and seen anywhere in the country? If somebody has an interest and goes to your website, likes what they see, and it makes sense for both, would you travel?
I would. And there's also another option. There is a couple people plugged into online. And so I could refer to them as well in different states. And, it's not that hard to find a good pilot, but I could recommend a couple good ones in certain states.
Sure. Well, I know what you're saying, but I've seen drone footage before, then I've seen yours. So yeah, you can find other people. It really, really is fantastic. It
Thank
is
you.
cinema quality. And it's funny, you mentioned, shooting a music video, and I think it was Game of Thrones. Did you mention, was that it? Yeah.
Yeah.
And a connection there. You see that cinematic quality in what you shoot. So it's almost as if you have that vision when you approach, no matter what it is, whether it's a real estate project or whatever you're working on, that it's of that level. Just great stuff. Cody, how do we find you? What's your website?
It's just blueliondroneservices.com. And it's up to date. It has everything on the contact page and how to contact me. And I do receive that message. If you have a question, absolutely reach out to me.
Sure. And just want to make sure it's clear for everybody. Blue Lion, like the animal, Lion, not like a straight line. Blue Lion, droneservices.com, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Awesome. Great talking with you today. Learned a lot. And thanks for sharing everything. I appreciate it, and wish you luck, and hope there's another time we get to talk again.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Steve.
Thank you. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.